All right, with this section of amendment notes, we'll cover amendments 10 through 18. And so number 10 is the final amendment that it was part of the Bill of Rights. And what it said was any power not given to the national government is reserved for the state or people. So the idea of powers reserved for the state ties directly into federalism, where you have the separation of government at the state and federal level. And so this was designed to prevent Congress or the executive branch from becoming too strong. And so some things that states have control over would be something like schools. So the state of Missouri runs the school system for the state of Missouri, or licenses, any license. I have licensed lawyers there, but any license comes through the state, which is why some states have different licensing laws. If you think of something like a driver's license, even the state of Missouri might have a different law in terms of when you can get your permit or driver's license is compared to somewhere like California. So it's the 10th and final amendment in the Bill of Rights. Uh, the any power not given to the national government is reserved for the states or the people. So now moving on from the Bill of Rights, we have amendments through 2011 through 27. With this section, we're just going to look at 11 through 18. So with Amendment number 11, kind of a specific one, but this was passed in 1795. And it says that states cannot be sued in federal court by one of its citizens, a citizen of another state, or by a foreign country. So the individual states are unable to be sued. I think this is kind of more of an amendment that is aimed at addressing issues of early colonial America, because I don't think that this is too much of an issue of like the state of Missouri wanting to sue the state of Texas or something like that. So the 12th Amendment was passed in 1804, and it set up and established the election of the president and vice president um, with the Electoral College. So it's the use of the Electoral College to use separate ballots and voting for president and vice president. Because the way that it used to be before the 12th Amendment was whoever received the most votes would be president, and whoever received the second most votes would be vice president. What that typically meant was that those two candidates would be from two different parties. And so if we were to use that system in the 2020 election, that would be Joe Biden, who received the most votes, becoming president, and Donald Trump becoming vice president. So you can see why that would be potentially problematic. So the 12th Amendment fixed that. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments are kind of grouped together, and they are known as the Civil Rights Amendments. So the 13th Amendment was passed in 1865 and abolished slavery in the United States. And so it's known as the first of three Civil War amendments. And obviously was a landmark decision. I also think it's worth pointing out from the 12th Amendment to the 13th Amendment, 61 years passed. So there was a lot of time in between those amendments as well. The 14th Amendment, the second Civil War amendment, granted citizenships to all persons born in the United States and guaranteed equal protection of law for them. This was originally intended to protect the rights of freed slaves, but was extended and has been cited as a justification to protect all citizens' life, liberty, or property without due process, with due process of law. And so you can see Martin Luther King Jr. there obviously was not alive in 1868, but cited the 14th Amendment throughout the civil rights movement. And as individuals or groups have sought greater equality in the United States, the 14th Amendment is often cited as a justification if one was needed for that. The 15th Amendment is our first voting amendment. We'll have a couple of those, but it is also the third Civil War amendment. And it said that no person shall be denied the right to vote because of race. However, this is when in the South, in the Jim Crow era, started the use of poll taxes, literacy tests, and other means to undermine the ability for minority groups to vote. And you could even draw connections to the modern day with voter suppression laws being passed in various states in reaction to the perceived, I don't know what the word is, malpractice during the 2020 election, even though there's no proof of it. This is does not, however, include women. So I think it's worth pointing out that Black males have the right to vote before women did, and we will revisit the women's suffrage movement with an amendment here in a little bit. So we've got 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, civil rights amendments. When you're trying to remember them, just remember those three grouped together. The 16th Amendment was passed in 1913, and it impacts everyone, or will impact everyone in this room at some point. So the 16th Amendment gave Congress the power to collect an income tax. And so any money that you make, the government gets a piece of it. The 17th Amendment changed how the election of senators took place. So the 17th Amendment passed in 1913, so that two senators from each state are directly elected by the people, and gave people a greater voice. So we've got another election-related amendment, and again, we'll have a couple more. The 18th Amendment you maybe have heard of. It was passed in 1919, and so the 18th Amendment prohibited the manufacture, sale, and transportation of alcohol. This started what was known as the Prohibition era. Obviously, alcohol is not illegal today, so we will revisit this amendment because we have one later that cancels it out. The 19th Amendment, I'm sorry, that's going to end this section of notes, amendments 10 through 18.